Canoeing. Have you ever gone with 3 other people in one canoe? No, I didn't think so. Most people have common sense and decide not to do that. But we were in about the 8th grade, so us 4 thought it was a great idea. We could bond together and we could have a little laugh, so we didn't have to have 2 canoes. And there was only 1 canoe, so whatever. And we all had our separate oars. Kaylee Archer had her life jacket on because she was awful at swimming. We got the canoe inside of the water. We all sat in, Macy in the front, Kaylee and Christy in the center, and me in the back. I was the only one with prior knowledge of canoeing, but I thought it was easy and they'd pick up real easily. Kaylee wasn't the brightest creature, but she was getting the hang of it after a little while, kinda, not really. And Christy was doing awesome. Macy was steering. She learned how to steer real easily, and I was helping everyone. We didn't all have really the best upper body strength, but we tried our best. We were rowing and rowing, and we got to the edge of the river. The very end. We looked, we're like, that was not worth it. It really wasn't. It was literally just trees and nothing exciting. Chris Carroll came by, was on the other side of the end of the little river thing, and he was with one of his friends and he was rowing this way towards us, and we were rowing that way trying to turn a little bit, and he would scream, "Alligator guard, there's an alligator guard, there's an alligator guard." Kaylee Archer was flipping out. She was like, "There, it's gonna kill me, it's gonna get me, it's gonna get me, it's gonna get me." We all knocked some sense into her and was like, "Kaylee, we're in a canoe, alligator guards are in the water, and there's no alligator guards. We would not be able to swim the lake, we would not be able to zip line across the lake, we wouldn't be able to do anything at this retreat if there was alligator guards, and it would danger us. There's no alligator guards." She was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And then she was fine. So we apparently didn't really know how to turn around in the canoe, so we were rowing and switching and rowing and rowing and rowing, and we were just going in circles and circles and circles. We're like, okay. So we all stopped rowing, and we had to explain to everyone to make sure we're on the right page. We're like, okay, Macy, you row this way, and do not move. Kaylee, stop rowing, just stop rowing. You're doing it wrong completely. So she just held her oar, and she was being a little brat about it, and she didn't want to do anything. So she was like, and she's like, "Christy's doing it, why can't I?" So we all say, "'Cause she's doing it right, she knows how to do it." So Christy, she rows how we told her to, and then I row as I got told to, and we finally turned around. Kaylee was still freaking out about the alligator guard because Chris Carroll decided to come by again and say there's an alligator guard chasing us. Kaylee, we finally realized she thought Chris meant a real alligator. She didn't know what an alligator guard was. So she was flipping out even more. She was shaking and rocking the canoe over and over again, not on purpose, but the canoe was rocking. Water kept kind of getting in a little bit, and I smacked her upside the head. I'm like, "Kaylee, stop." So she's like, "Ah," and like got scared and screamed a little. Then we stopped. Don't know how, but we just stopped rowing. Everyone stopped rowing. We just stopped. And we were in some moss in the river. I got a little bored. Kaylee was still panicking after I hit her, and I got a handful of moss and threw it at the back of her head. She did, ow. It's moss, it didn't hurt, really. So I started like doing it again. So then eventually we started having a moss fight. Everyone joined in. We were having so much fun. We were all laughing. The boat was shaking a little bit. More water was coming in. Kaylee was freaking out that the alligator guard was going to get her if she started getting the moss out of the water. So she started getting the moss out of the canoe. You know, logical things. And then we all stopped. We hit a tree branch. I don't know how, but we hit a tree branch in the water. Our canoe was completely still. And then, bam! Don't know how, but my life flashed before my eyes. The canoe tipped over, and Christy's head hit the branch that we hit. Macy almost drowned by choking on water, and when she got up, she just was puking up water. I got hit in the face with the canoe and an oar. I don't know how that managed to happen, but Kaylee was perfectly fine standing and freaking out because she couldn't swim, but she had a life jacket on, so she was perfectly fine. The oars were floating away. We just didn't get them. I don't know why, we just didn't get them. We were watching them float away. We were all trying to figure out what happened. The canoe was slowly sinking deeper and deeper into the river. We just sat there and just watched everything happen. Watched Kaylee freak out, and then it hit us. We need to get the canoe back up. We need to get the canoe back up and then go, and then we need to go. It's our night to serve lunch. Because we were 8th graders, so it was 8th graders' turn to serve lunch. Kaylee was freaking out. So I told her, go get the oars and hold them so they won't float away anymore. Just hold them. Because she was no help, because she had no upper body strength to get the canoe out of the water. Macy, Christy, and I, we could not find the canoe anywhere. Kaylee comes back with the oars, and then she was by the shore. We couldn't get on top of the shore on the riverbanks because there was trees and ivy. It was just too steep. It was steep like this, and there was just things growing everywhere out of it. So Kaylee suddenly got taller. We all looked at her and was like, why are you taller than all of us? She was literally to my elbows at this time when we were in 8th grade. She was standing on the canoe, completely submerged underwater. She was standing on the canoe. We pushed her off, and Christy, me, and Macy tried to get the canoe up. We got it from our feet. We had to get it from our feet to our knees to our hips and then like pull it up. So we were probably about shoulder width. I put my head under it where the canoe was on top of my head, and like I went underwater and I was holding it. Chris Carroll comes by again. Kaylee and Christy run off. Christy drops the canoe, hits me in the head. I am furious at this point. And Kaylee and Christy are just swimming towards Chris for help. He turns around, doesn't help. So I'm yelling at them, come back, we need help. We cannot do this by ourselves. Kaylee was freaking out again because there was suddenly an alligator gar. There was no alligator gar. So she was freaking out, basically drowning Christy, jumping on her. Christy was drowning, and she was irritated. She already almost died because she like passed out from hitting the stick underwater, and Kaylee was just trying to drown her. I got so furious. I was done. I said, okay, whatever. The canoe is back underwater. Me and Macy have to get it ourselves. So me and Macy, we go on each end. We go back at it from our knees to our hips, to our shoulders, to our heads, to flip the canoe over water. So it could actually be over water. It had to be above our heads and flip it. So we did that. I held most of the weight because Macy honestly wasn't that strong, but she was one of the stronger ones out of all 4 of us. So we got it. We finally got it. After probably 30 minutes of trying, we got the canoe above water. Then we pushed it over to the stick. Kaylee was freaking out at this point. I was tired of hearing it. So we told Kaylee, get in the canoe first. She used the stick as a stepping step to get into the canoe, and we pushed her into the canoe. So she sat, and she was supposed to hold on to the tree above her and sit in the canoe with all 4 oars. Then we put Christy in, using the same method. Then we put Macy in, and then I had to go in. Let's just say I fell. I fell right away. They were not holding on. They did not have anyone. I did not have any help getting pushed into the canoe like everyone else did. and I was the bigger one of all of them. So it tipped over again. So me and Macy hurried up, and before it got most water in it, we hurried up and we tipped it over really quickly. By that point, we saw the lifeguard that Chris Carroll came to get. He started coming and trying to save us. He was rowing really, really fast. And then us being females in the 8th grade, we're like, we need to do this before the man comes. We need to prove that we can do this without the man's help. So we hurried up, and we all got in the canoe. I was in first because we were not making that mistake again. Then it went Christy, Kaylee, then Macy. By that time, the lifeguard comes and says, hey, do y'all need any help? I got told that the canoe was flipped over and it was submerged underwater. We all being polite, we're like, no, it's okay, we're fine, we're good now. The guy's canoe, the lifeguard, his boat, because he was so uneven, his canoe was like this. He was sitting right here, and his canoe, over half of it was out of water. He was struggling a little bit more than us. He asked one of us to come into his canoe so it can be even, and we all told Kaylee to do it because we didn't want to deal with her rowing incorrectly again, going back to the bank of the shore of the river. She proceeds to jump out of our canoe into the water on the other side. His canoe was over here, we're in the middle, and she proceeds to jump out of the canoe the same way where the stick was and try to swim around our canoe into his. If his canoe was like this, she was never gonna get it. So we had to let her back into our canoe so she can jump into his canoe because she was not being smart at all. We rowed back to the shore, and we put the canoe up. Kaylee took off her life jacket, and she was done. She ran around the lake. She could not swim. She did not want to. She was done. We made it a race. Macy, Christy, and I, we raced Kaylee. We swam across the lake. She ran all the way around it. It was a tie. I don't know how, but it was a tie. Then we got our shoes. We had a worship. And then we made hot dogs. To this day, that was the best memory with my 3 best friends. And we still talk about it. We still talk about how it is a good bonding experience and everyone should honestly try it. It's also a very, very great conversation starter when we're all together. There's people that know this story randomly, and it's just amazing. And I also got a charm of it, a canoe, to tell the story.